to another episode of Creative Talks. I am your host, Drew Muzan. Thank you guys for joining me for the second episode of Creative Talks. This is only the second episode. I did the first episode. We were talking about shelf and soil. I had to get my homegirl in here, Jasmine Joseph, as we were talking about, as you can see from the title, talking about excellence. I don't know if I'm going to necessarily call it Christian excellence or just excellence,
Yeah,
period, in business or
yeah.
in whatever it is you're doing. But yeah, I had my homegirl Jasmine with me to join me as we kind of oftentimes have conversations about just doing things in excellence, and she's somebody that does things in excellence when it comes to her branding and her business. And I wanted to get her on here so she can bless y'all with some gems and we could just kind of have a little bit of dialogue talking about excellence. Jasmine, what's good with you?
Hey, y'all. I
What's
didn't made it to
popping?
the stage again.
What's popping? What's popping?
Let's go.
So since the last time we talked, I think the last time we talked, you hadn't started My Budget Binder just yet. This was like the beginning of the pandemic. So you
Yeah.
hadn't started My Budget Binder just yet. Could you talk about starting that and then the process of like creating content within that? Because
Yeah.
if you guys don't know, if you didn't hear, I just said My Budget Binder. So she has a budget binder business where she's all talking about all things financial literacy, helping us save our coins and get our coins together. And the content for that specific lane, I think, is personally hard to find. One, and to make it comical and informative as well. And she dropping content like almost like once a day, twice a day, and she doing TikToks, she doing every doggone thing. And the content itself is great and it's well put together. So if you can kind of just give me some insight into your brand about starting it and then your content journey and just trying to do everything in excellence with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey y'all, drop it again. So as Drew stated, so I have a company called My Budget Binder, and it specializes, it has an actual product that's, like he said, specialized in financial literacy, stewardship, helping people with healthy money habits. So that's the actual product. So when God gave me the okay to jump right back in the lane, it started with, okay, I don't know how to do a lot of things. So how can I maneuver in jumping into this whole separate industry, right? So I started doing a lot of research. That was really the background. And I would say that for any business, start doing the research. You get content and you get inspiration, especially as you are launching an actual product in the business, from seeing what are other people in the market are doing right now, and then how can I maneuver that so that it can feed into my audience. And so from there, I started just kind of like writing out. A lot of creatives, entrepreneurs, we brain dump a lot. I mean, I have so many Google Docs and Word documents of just inspiration and things that I want to see, and what is content that is like can be applied to any person. And so I shared this on my actual business coaching page. Like, look at what are people asking inside of the comment section. What do people want to know? And so that kind of started gauging like how I formulate my business page. So, like you said, I try to make it as creative and funny, and try to apply like all different aspects, because like people want to know about money, but they also want to be informed. People want to laugh, and I think
Mhm.
that's why a lot of people can relate to a lot of people. It's like, okay, some people are kind of more stern. I'm naturally super goofy in person, so I'm like, I want to make the content to where you are learning, you have stuff that you can take a value that you can actually apply in your budgeting, in your financial life, but that you also can relate to me. Like, okay, she's actually, I'm naturally funny, I'm just, to my
Right.
own horn. But it's
She's
like, and
like
you can take
literally
that.
goofy. Like she will literally send me voice messages like her just laughing, like
Don't, because I almost got weak.
yeah. See,
Almost got weak. No, really, it's like, and I wanted people, because we've talked about this. I write this in my content. People are ultimately buying, especially because I am a startup company. People are buying from me. They're buying from the person that, like, the product is great. I did create the product in excellence, but people are also buying from the person behind it. So it's like, who is the CEO of this? Who is the founder of this? And so I make
right.
sure that I exude that in the content that I put. And then just as the inspiration aspect that Drew talked about, I look on so many different platforms. It's not always easy, and I never want to put that out, like being a creative and getting that creative like energy is always easy. It's like, no, I'm looking at other people, I'm looking at what to put out, and I try to have a variety. That's kind of the balance that I've been giving to my page, is have a variety. So one day I'll do maybe a reel, I'll do something funny. I make sure I try to put out like something that's informative, that is shareable, and that things like that, some things that are just funny, some gifts and stuff like that. So I try to make it kind of well rounded, in that they're also getting value in my personality.
Yeah, that's one thing. Like when I'm telling you, like y'all, the content that she posts, I'm just like, bro, like how do you come up with this? And it's just like, I think one of the things that kind of sets you apart too, like when you said when you're doing like financial literacy, I'm like, that's naturally, I'm not to be disrespectful. It's a boring kind of concept because
Yeah,
we're not taught it, especially Black people. We're not taught it. So because
exactly.
when you can make something that's naturally or has the connotation that's naturally boring into something funny and informative, and
Yep,
especially since it's the wave right now, like it is
exactly.
definitely like a plus. And I was gonna say too, I forget what was you had just said. You had just said something. I was like, forget about it. I was just about to cut you
It's
back
gonna come
off.
back
So
as soon as
it's
we
gonna come
finish
back
talking.
in a second. So with that though, like before you even decided to pick certain types of content, to pick your aesthetic a certain type of way, a mindset had to be developed with that first. And since we're talking about all things mindset, talking about all things
Mhm.
mindsets, all things excellence, talk about like your journey to kind of figuring out like the excellence mindset that you kind of have, that mindset where you're kind of walking excellence all the time when you're trying to make sure that your stuff
Yeah,
is aesthetically pleasing on your Instagram, as well as
that,
with your content. Make sure stuff is not misspelled, make sure stuff is not corny, talk about that a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So my mindset behind excellence, me and Drew and I are like Christians, of course, but really understanding like that as a business, people are going to look and feed off of what we give. So if the content that we are putting out, the products, if our content and all that stuff is kind of like boring, like he said, or just not aesthetically pleasing, it's going to reflect on every other aspect of our lives. And so even going back into the process, I remember jumping back in, and I remember I was like, I need to get a logo. I started like looking at various things because that's something that I was not privy to. I hadn't designed anything at the moment. I paid one of my friends for templates and such like that because I hadn't created, I hadn't jumped in as much as I am now into Canva and
Mm-hmm.
such like that. And so it kind of was that mindset like, okay, how can I make this the best while still learning about this industry
Right.
and learning about how to build these things. And I
Right.
think that goes back to a lot of people. We don't understand the resources that are out there, the free resources, the cheap resources that we can give, so that we are giving it our best unto God, and that He is actually like pleasing it into the people, that it actually like looks good, it's valuable, and all that stuff. Because a lot of times, or I'll say sometimes, we jump into projects. God will give us a vision, He'll give us a business, He'll give us all these things, and then our first mindset is not so much to do the work. I mean, the flyers and such like that, like things that could be better, we we close and box ourselves in sometimes as a church when the world puts out products and things that are done in excellence, and we don't give it that same effort under the guise of faith, or under the guise like, oh my God, I'm anointed, all that stuff. Okay, you can be anointed, but you can also showcase and put things out in excellence, because
Facts.
it is a reflection of the God that we serve. We serve a God who does everything in excellence. I mean, literally, He's great. We see about His goodness and all His characteristics, but yet when it comes to the things that we put out in His name, and it doesn't even have to be in His name, people who are His vessels who reflect Him, are supposed to reflect Him, we become very mediocre in the things that we do in His name, and it shouldn't
Right.
be that way.
Right. Yeah. You wanted to say Microsoft Paint. That's what you wanted to say. You want to say y'all out here using Microsoft Paint. Now, no offense. Now, when I say that, I don't mean to be, because you have to use within your resources. But like
Yeah,
what she was saying talks about like a mindset. There's a mindset like, okay, I want to do this a certain type of way. I also
yeah,
think that it's also too, people's eye aren't trained enough. Like a lot of people are
yes,
stepping into trying to do like design
yeah,
or just trying to start businesses or brands, and they have no design background. So
yes,
they
yep,
have no design background, they have no creative background. So because you want to do it yourself, you don't
yeah,
want to ask one of your friends like, yo, does this look good, or yo, do you know
yes,
somebody that can do this, or yo, do you know somebody that can do the resources. I think a lot of times that's what hinders us too, is because we think it's dope, and
that's
somebody could
good.
be 35 and think this is dope, but
Yes,
you're in an age where this is 2021. This is Gen Zers. This is the age of Gen Zers. This is the
yes,
age of millennials. So
exactly.
stuff can't look a certain type of way. I think that just dropped in my spirit. I think that's a lot of times that's what happens sometimes, is that people are starting businesses or starting doing things when
Yeah.
they're of an older age in a climate
Yeah.
that's not made for them. So you're trying to start a business in 2021 when this is the age of TikTok. If you ain't on TikTok doing something funny, it's not gonna work. Or your logo, this is the age of, what I'm saying? Stuff is like
Yeah.
from the world and from the church, things are a little bit more refined, a little bit more cleaner.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you're still putting like 2002 type of work or 2002 type of like energy or mindset, or just that's how you
Yeah.
look at things is from 2002, you have to, update that. So I think that's a step that a lot of us, we kind of miss. Like we're not, when we're entering into a business or ministry or whatever it is that we're doing, we're not thinking about what's the brand trends of 2021. We're just like, oh, this looks good or that looks good. Okay, let's do that. And or we're not modeling ourselves after people. You know what I'm saying? First thing I do when I see somebody that has a business or they're starting something, I say, go look at this person. Like
Exactly.
I got a homeboy, Matt, who used to be a football player, who's getting into like doing content and doing interviews with people. I'm like, oh, there's a football player, a former football player who's a millionaire, Lewis Howes. Go look at him.
Yeah.
There's this person over here. Go look at her. There's this person here. Go
Exactly.
look at them. You know what I'm saying? Like I sent Jasmine this woman marketing by Monterey. I'm like, you ever heard of marketing by Monterey? She's dope. She you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And go look at these people, because we don't look at these people. So I think that's one
Studying
thing
them.
as well. Right.
Exactly. Studying them. And then just to jump off exactly what you said, that is something that I have been thinking about a lot lately, is that you said about training our mind. And what I've noticed is that we training our mind in the creative aspect, how we outlook things, it's progressive. So even the things but in order for it to be progressive, you have to continually be creating things and researching and studying people. And I think that
Right.
that's something that we all can grow and do. Because even when I had the colors and stuff like that, when I was kind of building behind the scenes, like, I don't know, sometime last year before the product actually came out, even some of those things that I was posting and doing now, to me, that's not even excellence. But at that moment, that was excellent to me. Is because the
Right.
more that you study, and that goes back to having to learn the market, like don't just faith. Faith is great. God gave us the vision, the business, He gave us all that stuff. But it is up to us to research and study the market.
Right.
We have to jump in. We have to, like Drew said, look at the people around us. What are they doing? And as you continue to learn and see, like, okay, this is the type of content or products or services. These are the type of things that people kind of want to see, that are getting their attention, especially when it comes to design and such like that. So I wouldn't even do some of the stuff that I was doing months ago, because it's progressive. But you have to be studying and learning, like you said, not kind of stuck in your ways so much, but understand that you are building things that are trying to last and build a legacy. And so because of that, you need to make sure you're studying and researching.
Right. Yeah. And to piggyback off of that, yeah, when you're trying to build something that lasts, you have to continue to evolve. Like one thing, a perfect example is Will Smith. Will Smith did TV shows and all stuff for years, and now he
Yeah.
on Instagram and he on TikTok and he doing stuff. He's evolving. But he got
Exactly.
on Instagram. When he got on Instagram, he did it the right way. He studied. Same
Yes.
thing with, like, I want to say with Beyonce. Beyonce's with Ivy
Yes.
Park. Like,
Yep.
Beyonce
Yep.
don't got no social media. I just want to interview her
Yep.
creative director. I know she don't got no social media. She be sitting there sipping her
Yep.
tea, playing with Blue.
Yep.
She don't be on social media no time. She don't know what's
Exactly.
going on. But she has
Exactly.
somebody who's tapped in to what the culture likes
Ooh,
and what the culture needs. So when she's putting
exactly.
out her brand and her business, she knows, okay, baggy clothes are in, or this type of photo shoot is in,
Yes.
or this type of
Yes.
print on your clothes is in. Okay.
Yes.
And she does
Yes.
it. And she
Yes.
sit there and she models it and she approves it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because she wants to evolve. And I think that's what sets like people who are trying to do things in excellence apart from
Yeah.
people who aren't, is that you're constantly trying to evolve. You're constantly trying to keep going.
Oh my God, that is a perfect example. When I say like behind, like I study, like, and really look at, like, even like he said, the things that Beyonce is putting out, like, I'm sure as creative as Beyonce is, I'm sure she has an amazing team around her that are like, okay, this is trendy, this is popping. I mean, even with her Icy Park line that she just did, the promo, the marketing,
That
phenomenal.
video
I
was
mean,
hard.
like,
That video was hard.
oh my God. And
That
it
video
wasn't
was
even the
hard.
video. Imagine a team putting out something in such excellence and video was like a minute or something. the work that it goes in. But guess what? Because of her
Yeah.
marketing, her strategy, and all those different things, because she did it in excellence, she studied the generation that she's in, she studied what's going on right now. I know she's, and I mean, even beyond her name, like I could honestly say that if there was someone who did not have that name, that title behind them, if they put out a product, marketing and all that stuff in that same aspect, I can guarantee they will sell out.
Right.
Guarantee it.
And I think sometimes what stops people is they say, well, I don't have Beyonce money, but it's just like, we're in the age of DIY. We're doing this off a laptop and we got phones and you know what I'm saying? Like, so,
Exactly.
and there's Canva. So there's
Yeah.
Canva, there's, you can go on Fiverr to find resources for under, like
Love
my
Fiverr.
intro that I shot that y'all saw before this video. I
Yeah.
paid somebody like $50 for off of
Yep.
Fiverr. You could find somebody to
Always
pay
use
$15 or $35.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So I think money is not an excuse right now just because the playing field has leveled. Like one thing I was telling
Exactly.
a guy who I interviewed last week was saying I was saying last week that how Trevor Noah, the host off of Comedy Central, he
Yeah.
has a TV show. But ever since the pandemic, he's been doing things from home. So the playing field is even. Now, when it comes to content creators, and he has like a
Exactly.
bookshelf behind him, like 5 years
Wow.
ago, you couldn't have no bookshelf from behind you and be on TV. You know what I'm saying? Unless you was on a
Exactly.
TV set, and he's in his own home and he's
Exactly.
making millions of dollars off of that. So I think that we have to get rid of this mindset that we don't have enough, and you know what I'm saying, we work with what
Exactly.
we got.
Exactly. Literally working. You know, it's crazy. I feel like if you were able and if you were to take a camera into the lives of most creatives, outside of the actual camera that you were looking at, you would see like, oh my God, like you're doing this in like small settings. You're doing this literally
Yeah.
working with what you
Yeah,
have.
y'all should
I
see my
mean,
room.
there are stars and people who have blew up, got contracts, signed deals from TikTok from making videos from their phone. They didn't have any professional equipment or anything like that. They used a phone, probably an older iPhone, and now they have signed $1 million deals.
Yeah.
At
And
this
it's
point, it's like
creativity.
it's
It's
the
It's the
creativity.
creativity. Right.
Oh gosh.
So, like, if you had to put into a sentence or a phrase, what does excellence mean to you?
Absolutely, yeah. Excellence means to me submitting and yielding all of our gifts and obeying God in how whatever aspect that He says. So, and let me break that down a little bit because it's in our obedience, God. And this is one of the prime examples that I love to use and look at because I know like the Bible is like our foundation and such like that. When they were building the tabernacle of Moses, I love, and this is how I can see that God is a God of strategy. When they were building the tabernacle of Moses, God gave them exact details on how to build. I mean, from the color to the width to what material to use. He was specific in building something that was like outwardly that they had a place that they had to go. It wasn't something spiritual, it was an actual place. He was strategic even in that. So when I'm operating in business or whatever aspect that he has called me to, he is giving me the exact design, the exact blueprint, and it is in that I'm operating in excellence. So it's literally yielding. Okay, God says, boom, do this, write this, reach out to this person, make it this color. I mean, literally involving him in every detail. He's going to give me strategies to obey him in excellence.
Right. Yeah. And to add on to that too, I was thinking about that is that place was fly. Right. So
What?
another caveat on to God giving us structure is God
Yeah.
can also make it look dope as well. I think that's another thing. Like when we talking about doing excellence and doing things of
Come
excellence,
on.
a lot of people stay away from like, oh, I don't want to do this, or oh, this is worldly. And I was telling a dude I did an interview with last week, there's no such thing as a Christian clothing line. There's no such thing
Yeah.
as or Christian clothing or
Yeah.
Christian cars or
Yeah.
Christian this, Christian that. There's no such thing
Yeah.
as that. God just provided the raw materials and we created it right into whatever it is that we're doing. So we
Wow.
have to get away from like, oh, this is Christian clothing. Like, no,
Wow.
God provided the raw materials. God
Yeah.
knows what looks good. God knows what looks dope. So even in us
Exactly.
trusting, you know what I'm saying, in us trusting how he wants us to mold stuff, he can also make it
Exactly.
look dope too. Like
It,
he's a creative God. So
because you can stay right there. I mean,
right.
literally, like It does not please. And that goes back to not making things mediocre. Like, oh my God, it has to be like limited or all these different things. It's like, no, if anything, it should be better than because
Mm-hmm.
you got the Holy Spirit on your side. I mean, literally, he's telling you what to do. If anything, it should be better. It should be more excellent. It should be done in perfection. You should reach out and try to get the best of materials and all these things and directors and all this stuff. Do not operate in mediocrity remotely with anything. Ooh, okay.
Yeah, period.
Ooh, don't get me worked
So
up.
then how do you along with that answer of what does excellence mean to you, how do you strive to walk in that in your not necessarily with your everyday life, but in
Yeah,
working with your business and creating your content and doing that? How do you strive to walk in that excellence every single day?
absolutely. I think one of the key parts is making sure that I'm continually like studying the market because I can go behind
Facts.
and I can get behind if I'm not looking at, like you said, how are people moving forward? Like definitely forward thinking with even the content that I'm putting out and such like that. So me studying the market is me pushing the agenda to continue to operate in excellence. You know, because wonder if this didn't do good, or wonder if people are not checking for this anymore, or even this type of content anymore. I will no longer be operating in excellence because I'm no longer continuing to work my brain, if you would, to make sure I'm researching and looking at what's doing good right now. So I study the market, I study the people, I look at captions and websites, and I'm looking at all these the colors. I mean, wording. I'm literally looking at all these different aspects to make sure that I'm showing up, even in how I operate with the content.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to like with training your eye as well. Like at one point in time, I followed like 2,000 people on my Instagram. I unfollowed a lot of it, but I followed like 2,000 people or 2,000
Yeah,
accounts. The reason being is because I saw something dope and I'm like, okay, I want to see more of it on my timeline. So if
yeah,
you're out there and you want to train your eye, like one thing I always tell people is like follow as many accounts as possible. Now I'm trying
yeah.
to, look like more of an influencer. I had to unfollow like half of them,
A
but
lot of
I
them, yeah.
still but
That ratio.
within but within doing that, like you're training your eye, like you're seeing different textures, you're seeing how different fonts look,
Yes,
you're seeing, okay,
yes,
do people blow up the words on the screen, or is it small, can it be
yes.
simplistic, you know?
Come on, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, you can finish talking, and I'm gonna jump right
Nah,
in.
you good. Nah, you good. Nah, but so I think that's a key thing for me. Like I want to say, how do what do I think about what excellence means to me?
Yeah.
Um, I think one is honoring like the creative gift that I have on the inside of me. I think that's what it is, because it's just like I think a lot of times we forget how God is the first creative. Like I have a book
Ah,
over there called Call to Create by Jordan
come on.
Rayner, and it talks about how God is
Wow.
the first creative, right? God was the first creative, and my church is going into a series next month called God Creative. I'm preaching that week in that series too, so I'm
I'll
gonna
be
send it
tapped
to
in.
you
Come
because
on, beloved.
I'm talking. I'm going in. I'm gonna go in. I can't. I'm gonna tell you what the title is
I'm about to
of
be
my
tapped
message
in.
but I'm going in. But yeah, so but God is the creative. So like I think for me, like
Ooh,
honoring that,
that's good.
like, you know what I'm saying? And not necessarily hoarding that word, because creative, like the word creative is so like the same thing with entrepreneur these days. Like everybody wants
Yeah.
to be creative, everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, but no, like,
Yeah.
yo, like God has given you the ability to be able to create something out of something,
Come
right? Not
on.
something out of nothing,
Exactly.
because we didn't create, we didn't create something out of nothing, right? We created
Come
something out of something.
on.
He provided the raw materials, and
Yeah.
we have the ability to be resourceful, to communicate whatever message it is that we want to communicate. So I think for me, I think just how I walk in that in my everyday life. I think one
Yeah.
is like it's staying tapped in. That's the big thing. Like if you're not tapped
Ooh,
in, like you'll miss your wave. Like
exactly.
if you're not tapped
Exactly.
into what the people are doing or what's going on, like even when it comes to these certain TikToks, like I be seeing everybody using this yeah uh uh, uh yeah, that TikTok. I'm like, I have
Yeah,
an
yeah, yeah,
idea in
yeah,
my
yeah, yeah, yeah,
head
yeah.
for that TikTok. I have an idea in my head. I just have to execute it. But just staying abreast, because I'm just staying abreast of like what's going on. Like
Exactly.
if you're not tapped in, like you're gonna miss it. And I
You
think
are
like
going to fall
God can
behind.
use that. The fact that you're tapped in, I think God can
Yes.
use that to his advantage. So
Come on. Okay. Because so many gems. I mean, literally so many gems. Where do I even start? Okay, with the TikTok. I'll start with the TikTok.
Yeah.
Being tapped in is so important because that's how a lot of people end up going viral, right? And that's one of the tips that people give you when you're on TikTok to go, get the numbers up, is to use popular sounds. And if you were not tapped in, like, oh my God, this sound is even popular right now, you would not know to use that. Even at a low volume, that's kind of one of the things that they say, to use it at a low
Yeah, I was
volume.
gonna
You
say
can
that.
tell
That's
the
popped in my
difference.
head. I'm like, you turn the volume down and still
Exactly.
talk over it. Yeah.
Listen, but the
Uh-huh.
sound is there. People are going to find you because of that. I mean, you
Right.
use that same strategy on Instagram, and you made up such a great point. One of the things I love to do, I have so many IG folders of different things, of inspiration, content ideas, entrepreneurship. I have different folders and such like that. And so me seeing things that are probably, even how you talked about the wording on the videos and stuff like that on my
Mm-hmm.
business page, I started adding that as well. Especially like for people who may like be hearing impaired or such like that, it's like
Mm-hmm.
adding that extra thing because people don't necessarily need the value to watch your videos, but you still want them to get that value. So I mean,
Right.
stuff like that, adding the wording to your videos, stuff like that. So you need to kind of be like tapped in as plug, Drew's show and stuff like that. You need to be tapped into what is going on, what is popular, and how you can integrate that into your
Right.
content that you're putting out.
Right. Yeah, you tapped in. I'm gonna bring tapped in back one day. Tapped in on the
Listen,
shelf right now. Tapped in on the shelf right now. Because I was doing like 16 shows because I was trying to do everything. I think that's another thing too. Like when it comes to like doing things of excellence, I think an important thing is not spreading yourself thin. Like we were just talking about before we got on, like not spreading yourself too thin. You don't want to, because then that limits how much excellence you walk in. Like when you're
yeah,
not, when you have 16 things going on, you can only
exactly.
develop, you can only not develop, you can only pinpoint or designate, that's what I'm looking for,
Yeah,
you can only designate a certain amount of excellence to each one. But when you
exactly.
make that smaller and you only focus on 4 things, you can walk in more excellence with that too. And two, with that also, I want to say that excellence is not perfection. So
Yeah,
excellence
right.
is not perfection. So don't think when we're saying excellence that we mean for you to
Yep,
make everything perfect. You don't need
exactly.
perfect conditions to start. It's just
Nope.
about the manner in which you do things. So
Exactly. Because I almost closed my laptop. I felt that. I said, I'm gonna just go ahead and we're gonna close out. That meme. I'm gonna
right.
head out because wow. I mean, you said literally a mouthful. I don't even know where to start. You said a mouthful. I'm done.
So with that, I
Literally,
wanted
I
to ask
almost.
you, you have something to add?
No, you're good.
Okay. I wanted to ask you, so what are some do's and don'ts of like walking in excellence? If you had a do and you had a don't, like what are some do's and don'ts for you would give to the people about walking in excellence?
Absolutely. So one of the don'ts that I have, just as Drew just said, and I'm glad that he kind of segued into this way, is do not run yourself thin. So what I mean by this, and specifically with business, is I noticed because a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners, creators, we we try to utilize, especially with social media. You want to be on TikTok, you want to be on YouTube. I mean, you want to be on every platform.
Every
You want to be
platform.
running and have most of the times we do have to have our hands in a lot of different pots, but it's not as beneficial. And even for me, I noticed I was not putting out my best content. This is something I just recently started learning. I wasn't putting out my best content or even keeping the main focus, because I was trying to have my hands into me pots, not understanding or even be in that mindset to understand like you can outsource some things if it's possible. You can start kind of seeing like things like how can I take some of this pressure off myself? And that's kind of things that I'm just looking forward thinking, like to have people to do different things, because like we cannot do everything and be everywhere at every place, because you're not going to give it your all. And I think so that's what a lot of people try to do. I'm not showing up in excellence because I'm not giving my best content. And like you said, it's not perfection. It's definitely progression, but it's like I'm not giving out the best I could. You just try to put out anything just
Right.
to put it out, but it's like, is it really adding value? And I don't mean perfection of course again, but it's like, is it adding value? Is it the best that it could have been? Did you take detail with your caption? Like, did you put more thought into it? Like, and put as much detail. And so I think that's one of the don'ts that I would say. The do that I would say when it comes to excellence is researching. That's a really good one. Researching and studying is a do that's kind of necessary, because if you're not researching and studying your market, you are going to fall behind. You're not going to see what's kind of popular, where it's going. And you know what the crazy part about that is that even the things that we've studied right now, even the things that we think are the most popular, this is kind of wave, trends change so much. And it's like, if you are not keeping up with the times, there's something popular on Twitter going on right now, like a hashtag that called you had to be there, right? And it's so crazy. I was thinking about this before the interview, is that you had to be there. It's so many clothing items. It's clothes, it shows, it's all these different things. And I'm sure in that moment, their marketing team, their creative team, all these things thought that they would last, they would be so popular,
right?
They would, but it's like, but it didn't. And why was that? If you are not forward thinking, looking ahead of the market, looking to see what content you can make, you are going to fall behind. So always being forward thinking, always studying, always researching, not just using, I have just faith, I have just faith in that aspect. And it's like, no, make sure you're putting works behind that, what you're doing, because that's when you're going to put out in excellence. So always make sure you are studying your market. I think that's one of the key things that you can do, because you also get inspiration. I mean, you get inspiration from seeing other people, how Drew talked about following or unfollowing like some people, and you seeing other people in your timeline, like, I love that idea. Like, or how did they do that? It really sparks like the creativity in you. Even with the content I make on my business page now, I'll see people, and I love following. It's crazy. I actually made a list recently of people that inspire me on social media, like with their content. And it's bananas. I'm like, they inspire and spark things in me to where I'm just like, this is an excellence. And like I said, it's always progressing to where I'm just like, oh my God, I want to learn how to do that. How did they do that? And then I'm behind the scenes. I started studying. That's where a lot of some of the stuff on my business page is coming from. I'm like, oh my God, I have to start studying. How did they do that? And I'm over here behind, like learning up all night, like learning, like, how did they make that? Like, can I learn how to do that myself? Like, it sparks something in you. So follow people. Drew's actually on there too, y'all.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I saw my name. I had paused. I was like, "Is that my name?" Because I had paused because I was looking at the video and I had paused. Yeah. I was like,
it is. His name is on there. I always tell him he's like a creative freaking genius. And so I made a list of all the people like creative and stuff like that who inspire me, like content wise or entrepreneur business and stuff like that. And I'm just like, you need to be studying what they're doing. How can you learn? How can you implement some of these things so that you guys are all progressing? And so, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. You said a mouthful there. One thing you said that caught my attention that I really hate when I see people do is they just post something like willy-nilly. Like you're not taking, like, I think a lot of times too, this is good. A lot of times too, I think people don't take things seriously because like, I'm just doing this for the Lord. Like, I'm a Christian, I make Christian music, but I just want to just make Jesus happy, and I just want to, you know what I'm saying? And I understand the heart. I understand the heart of it. I understand that you just make music for Jesus. I understand that you just doing this for Jesus. I understand that you don't care about who sees it, like the Lord. That's another thing too. I think, I'm about to rebuke somebody. That's another thing jokers be doing too, is they use that I'm just doing this for the Lord as like a fleece that they throw out there to put out mediocre content, or to put out like content where they don't care about like how far it goes or whatever. Like, I'm just doing this for the Lord. Like, I'm just doing this for God. Like, if nobody else is pleased, God is pleased or whatever. And it's just like, no, I get that. I get the heart. But if the goal is to reach souls and to impact souls, you have to impact the souls in excellence, right? So you having a you don't care attitude or a mindset like, it's just I'm just doing this for Jesus and I don't really care who sees it or whatever, is backwards. Because how you gonna preach the gospel but you don't want nobody to see it? Right? Because your music or your entertainment, whatever you're doing, is preaching the gospel. So how you gonna care about preaching the gospel when you don't, you know what I'm saying? How you gonna want to preach the gospel when you don't care about who sees it? So I think that's one thing people rope themselves into, is they want to like, I'll just put the caption out willy-nilly. And then too, they don't, I think people, another thing in terms of not walking in excellence, I think people do is they kind of not necessarily cross promote, but cross create, like on their platform. Like, you can have your regular Facebook account or whatever, and it's just set up however it is, or your Instagram is just set up however it is, and you promote your new video, or you promote your new this off your phone or whatever, and it's like, it's not well put together. Like, you're cross promote, you're cross creating, like you're treating your Facebook page like you're not trying to, you know what I'm saying, like you're not trying to blow up. Like one thing I started doing, I think a lot of people, and Jasmine can attest to this too, is with her page. Like when you're trying to actually like be an influencer, or not necessarily influence, but get out there. You know what your purpose is. You know your purpose is to speak. You know your purpose is to be a coach. You know your purpose is to do that. But it's your personal page. You have to tailor your personal pages a certain type of way in order so where you can keep it fun and for you, and you can show stuff, but I could also drop a video clip on this page at the same time that I'm dropping, you know what I'm saying, a funny me, I'm out with my friends, or I'm out at dinner or whatever. You have to craft it a certain type of way. So I think that's one thing people are guilty of. Another thing I think when it comes to not walking in excellence, I have written down, is like we have to stop, like we have to make sure that we're not putting any typos in what we're putting out. Like typos, whether it's in I go the second I drop a project, a video on my page, I'm in the edit section looking. Okay, did I spell this right? Did I do this right? And then too, it's like the color schemes too. So I don't know if it's like we got to go study color theory, or like what we need to do, or we just got to watch certain people. But like certain colors don't go together. And people just put the colors together, and like it don't go together.
Don't do the people.
It don't. Don't come for the people. Does the graphic is? And I'm about to get my little graphic design nerd back. Can I read what's on the screen with that color that you have it on? You got 5 different colors as your background, and then you put a white wording on it. I'm not gonna be able to read that. Or maybe you need to adjust it and put some drop shadow on it to raise it up so people can see it. You know what I'm saying? So that's just my
Listen, and that's why they need creative coaches, plug, to go ahead and have little courses and stuff like that to teach the people.
She out here always plugging me, always hyping me, dog. Always hyping me.
Period.
Always hyping me, for real.
No, honestly. Because that's super important. Like, I feel like, first off, he came for my whole life. I don't know if y'all just knew that. I am typo queen. Text message, everything. I be in there, and I'll come back hours later and be like, child. And now I just be like, okay.
The caption is not that bad, but it's the post. The post is where it gets me. I'm like, dang. I saw somebody today. She has 40,000 followers, and she had misspelled something there. I'm like, she got 4,000 followers. It ain't gonna hurt. Like, she forgot one letter, but I'm like, that would kill me. I hate seeing that. That's just me, the graphic designer in me. I hate seeing that because I gotta triple check things when I post on my church page. So that's the only reason why I said that.
Listen, when I'm posting things like tweets and stuff like that, I'll go over the words a little bit more. But I'm telling y'all, if y'all see a typo in my caption, baby, just walk by. I be having so many typos in there. I go back hours later. You know what's crazy? I seen a typo that I did. Facebook Memories had pulled something up, and it was a typo from like years ago. And I said, child, let me edit this right from years ago.
Even though I ain't gonna see it, nobody's gonna see it. Like, I gotta let me go back and do that, because we know.
But yes, that's what you need to learn.
I want to ask you, like, where do you think that disconnect kind of comes from? Like, when we see Christians putting out like that type of, you know what I'm saying, like subpar material or not walking in excellence, where do you think that? I think we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, but like, where do you think that disconnect kind of comes from?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that we do a lot of things under the guise of faith, but with faith being the backdrop, like, I don't have to put in as much work because I'm just going to have a lot of faith behind it. And so what I mean by that is, like, we don't push the issue. We don't push, like Drew was saying, like, I'm just going to, like, I'm going to just do it. And oh my God, this is just unto Jesus. Like, I don't care as much. Like, we use I don't care a lot of times kind of as like just a not cowering back, but
like a blanket,
exactly, like a blanket statement, like, just to kind of use it. And I think sometimes, honestly, it may be wrapped up in fear. It may be wrapped up in doubt, and all these aspects. And so that's kind of why I'm just like, I understand the grace behind it. And of course, like, we're not trying to like condemn anyone. Right. But that's why there's resources out there. I mean, there's so much free content. I mean, I am a YouTube university. Okay. I use YouTube for like so many things. People have free courses. They have free handouts and ebooks and things like that. Fiverr is a great resource. I use Fiverr for literally so many things. It's Fiverr with 2 R's. You can get graphic designs. You can get things done. And I think what a lot of people understand and have to overcome is that we think that we are great at everything. But we're not great at everything. We may be good at some things, but there is someone who may be anointed and better at it. And if we would reach out and see how much they cost, pay them their price, we can get things that are done in excellence instead of putting just out mediocre content. I'm gonna be honest. I'm one of people, when I say I judge a book by its cover, I mean like literal books, things like that. If there are graphics and conferences and things like that that you want us to go to and attend,
I'm not going to it if it's made in Microsoft Paint. I'm sorry, Shawty. I ain't going to it.
I'd be like, I can't. You know, it could be great. It could be heavy in the spirit. Y'all can preach the gospel, and I'm like, that flyer just turned me off.
Yes,
I can't do it, and that goes back to, I know you can do things yourself, but again, there are people who does things in excellence. Go on Fiverr, pay that $5 to have someone create you a graphic. Like it's really not that deep. And it goes back to like, we try to have so much faith in, oh my God, it's like, instead of seeing like, if God gave us something, he wants us to operate in excellence. Like, why would he call us anywhere to do something half done? He hasn't done anything half done. Everything that he does is complete and finished. And so why do we not have that same mindset in that creativity, like Drew was saying earlier, that creativity, why do we not yield and allow that to how we operate and dictate the things that God has called us to do?
Right. And it's like attractiveness. So I didn't we didn't go in on attractiveness that much, but I'm telling you, like it's so important that things are attractive, because I put it in one of my Diamond of the Weeks. I was talking about like, that's the first thing people see. Like, so we always worrying about like, the message. Like I seen somebody comment like, I don't know if you seen Mike Todd do that theatrical sermon they did a couple weeks ago that kind of went viral. And people in the church, content creators were giving him slack for it, and I was getting pissed off. I'm like, that thing is amazing. I didn't listen to the message or whatever, so I think maybe people are talking about the message, but I'm like, the theatrics is amazing. If you got it, flaunt it. Like, if you got it, if you have the capabilities, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you got it, flaunt it. And I think people were getting mad. They're just like, oh, why not just worship and just preach the gospel? It's just like, that's not what this generation dictates. I think that's a lot going back to a point we said earlier. You have to generate with the generation, you know what I'm saying, dictate. You have to put that out. You know, if you're not putting that out, then it's not going to do anything. But a lot of people get mad at like, attractive church. I love attractive church. I may get some flack for saying that. I didn't talk about theologically sound. I like theologically sound too, but I like attractive church because when it comes to businesses, you're not going to walk into Forever 21, which is a Christian company. You're not going to walk into Forever 21 and they got roaches on the floor, or they got stuff out of plates,
exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Exactly. You're not gonna do that. You're gonna not walk in there because it's not attractive to you. So it's just like, when you're trying to communicate the message of the gospel to somebody, it has to come from not necessarily an attractive face, but an attractive front. Like it has to come from an attractive front. Like if the beat doesn't catch you, the beat has to bring you in, and the little beat under the certain clip brings you in, and then you hear the gospel. So in the same way, when you create your businesses and you creating whatever you're creating, have that same mindset and don't be afraid of letting it be attractive, and don't worry about, because it's like, this is the thing. We're all things are lawful, but not all things are helpful. We're free in Christ. So there's no bondage, there's no box that we're bound to when it comes to our creativity. Of course, you ain't gonna do no wild outlandish stuff. The Holy Spirit in you is not going to allow you to do, you know what I'm saying? You're if you're in tune with the Holy Spirit gonna be like, not that. So, but outside of that, the Holy Spirit, it's whatever, you know what I'm saying? Use your common sense. So I think a lot of people are afraid of that and afraid of like attractive church, and like, I want to free somebody, whoever's out there, like, don't be afraid of having like a business or whatever, a ministry, whatever it is that you're doing. And the thing that's holding you back from creating excellence is you want it to be attractive, but you don't want the church mother or the deaconess or the whatever to be mad because you're doing it this way. When it's just like, it's not for them to understand. That's between you and God. Let God confirm, you know what I'm saying, what that is or what you're doing in the future. But don't be bound by what man has to say about whether or not something is attractive or not, because it's just like, God is trying to win souls. So
Yeah.
he's going to use the person that is that like for not use the person that has is the most free or whatever, but he can use different people in different types of contexts. So he can
Yeah.
use me in a context that he may not be able to use Jasmine, or he can use me
Yeah.
in a context that he may not be able to use, you know what I'm saying, your friend, whoever it is that's watching, or whatever, because
Yeah.
we have two different personalities, or we may be on two
Exactly.
different playing fields. So I may be called to one, she may be called to another, or whatever.
Yeah.
She may be willing to do more than what I'm willing to do in this area, and I'm not willing to do that in this area. So she
Yeah.
that person and I won't. So that's where that kind of ends up at.
Exactly. And even going back to that, I didn't actually listen to the message with Mike Todd.
Yeah, I didn't either.
But just speaking exactly on, I seen it went viral. I seen there's a lot of comments. I
Mm-hmm.
think that he reaches the people that he is called to.
Right.
And I'm one of the people I don't mind, but like I'm not like extreme on either side necessarily. But you reach people, and I'm just talking like the creativity side. I'm not just talking about the word. I mean, you reach people like on the creativity aspect with the people that you're supposed to be called to. Like
Right.
I like both type of sermons. Like I would have been in there gassing him up probably if I was in the church. Like, oh my God, do y'all see this? He got like a whole pool, whatever, in the church. But I'm also the person that's just like, okay, the plain bland preacher that don't have no flashing lights or nothing like that. Like
Right.
in
I
his
can listen to
sermon
you for
sound
45 minutes.
exactly.
Yeah.
But to a millennial or a Gen Z, they're not gonna be able to sit through that. They might not be spiritually where we are, but it goes back to who are you called to reach? And so it's
Right.
not even like, oh my God, let me knock this and stuff like that. Like, baby, you just ain't called to that. And just from the creative aspect, it's like that was necessary. Let me get to this man church and he got 3 inches of water up in
That's
there.
what I'm saying.
Like,
You
the
in the pool, you in the
creativity
pool
behind
with some fancy sneakers on, and you preaching, and it's raining,
listen.
and it's raining. It's not a fire alarm, and it's raining.
You guys. And then even beyond that, if you look at, I think, remember the merch that he dropped, the commercial for the merchandise that he does everything in excellence. And it's like, and it shows in what he does. It shows in, I'm sure the sales and all that stuff. It shows in what he does. He performs literally in excellence. And you may not have the budget for that, but mentally he is showing up. And Drew had brought up such a great point. When people go different places, they expect an experience from a lot of people. The people who want to go in Gucci or Louis Vuitton and all these places, you expect to go in there, I'm sure, get your champagne. You expect to sit down. You expect a certain level of customer service. You expect all these things because of where you are, except when you come to creativity, when from like Christ and them, like you're like, okay, no, let me expect mediocrity.
Right.
But why though?
Why?
But why though? It's like, why would you not want an experience? You're going to get the gospel. You're going to get Jesus. That's the perfect thing. But you're also going to get these done in excellence. I'm not just about to come at you like with something basic. You're going to get this. Even in your coaching and your businesses and all these things, I am showing up in excellence and I'm going to continue to progress in that. It's like no basic stuff.
Yeah. No cap.
No. An experience.
You need that for real. So that's pretty much all I have. I think we said a mouthful in the last hour. I think you guys learned a lot. I hope you guys learned a lot. I hope you guys got all these gems that we've been dropping. And once again, it's no condemnation. Like one thing I want people to get off when I'm saying all this stuff, I'm talking to somebody. We're talking to people who want to elevate. So we're not talking to, if you feel like you're doing things that you can do in excellence, God be praised. You know what I'm saying? You do that. But for somebody who's trying to elevate and continue to keep going with the excellence, and God may be tugging you in these specific areas that we've been touching on, then this is for you. But if you're somebody out there you're doing what you can or whatever, and this is all you have, do what you can in excellence. Use what you have, and this is not towards you. It's not to be condemning or whatever, because like I said, I always say I started from an iPad propped up on a laptop with the video just cutting on and off. I didn't have no money for no intro. I didn't have no money for these microphones. I just got these microphones and stuff like last year. Like I just got my first real camera like last year. So, and I've been doing this for like 4 years. So it's like it's not about needing perfect conditions to start or whatever. So I'm definitely somebody who can vouch for starting off the phone, starting off of the iPad mini. You know what I'm saying? She's another. Yeah, for real.
I concur. We're not trying to condemn y'all. We want everyone to just excel, you know?
Right. So if you would, Jazz, just shout out your social media, shout out your business social media, tell people where to go buy that binder,
Listen.
and all that good stuff. Please follow her on Instagram because her content is amazing.
Hi guys again. My Instagram handle and on my website, Twitter, YouTube, everything is Jasmine A. Joseph. And then my business page, website, Twitter, all that stuff is My Budget Binder. So yeah, follow your girl. I know we have so many much more things coming and stuff like that. So it's gonna be dope. It's gonna be dope.
Oh, well, I thank you for copping on here with me, Jazz. I hope everybody got something out of it. This was another episode of Creative Talks. I didn't say walk with you like I thought I was going to say. This is Creative Talks. This is a segment for creators where we're talking all things business mindset,
Yes.
just the admin side of creativity. And I hope you guys like this. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, get this out to all your friends on YouTube and share this out. And until next time, peace out.
Bye guys.